Ah yes, Palworld. It finally hit the 1.0 version. And naturally when a game like this, which by the way I already played when it was in early access, hits 1.0 after 2 years and nearly 6 months staying in early access, it is time to make a review and figure out what changed, what's happening with the game at this moment, and is it still good? Spoiler alert, it is, but I'm gonna talk about it a bit later. So like I already said, I played the game when it was in early access. I think it was patch 0.4. And during my time playing the game at that particular version, I actually had a quite amazing time, but obviously there were some issues, particularly when it comes to the endgame. Yes, there were updates between patch 0.4 and full release, but I didn't play them because what's the point? I just wanted to see what the game is all about, I tried it, and then I basically waited for the full release. And right from the get-go when you start playing the game, pretty much everything is the same. All the mechanics are there, all the gameplay features are the same, nothing really changed. However, the true change as far as I'm concerned was what they concocted for the endgame, and this is why I pushed hard in order to reach that particular state of the game. But yes, as I was playing the game, I did notice several improvements. For example, the manuals that were extremely rare back in the day are now more common to appear, which is amazing. And if you don't know, these manuals basically increase the work stats, or rather the work abilities of your pals, so if you want to max out a pal, you can definitely do that. Also, for some strange reason, the starting area feels a bit bigger. I don't know if that is because I placed the pal computer in the right position so I can utilize all the terrain properly, or they actually enlarge it a bit, but whatever may be the case, I like that particular situation. You will still need to create additional bases in order to kickstart your economy and logistics and all that, but again, it's nice to not move the initial base because it can be, I suppose, useful all the way till the end game. The next thing that I have noticed they have added in the game are these vortex things. Basically, it looks like a small gust of air on the floor and you kinda step in it, you jump and it propels you up in the sky, so that's amazing if you don't have flying mount yet. Because back when I was playing, if you didn't have the flying mount, you were essentially screwed. I also noticed that there are these PAL recruiters, NPCs visiting your base. Now, I don't really remember back in the day if that was a thing, but why I'm mentioning this? Well, because this guy came and sold me this, I suppose, high tier PAL that had, I think, 5 or 6 kindling, and when you start the base so early and you get this Giga Chat PAL, it's absolutely amazing. So I grabbed it for pennies and the boy stayed so long in my base doing all kinds of stuff kindling related, so again, that was amazing as well. And speaking about amazing things, it seems like they toned down the difficulty a bit in comparison when I was playing the game, so it feels smoother. And yes, you will probably fiddle with the difficulty sliders and damage and all that stuff as you are progressing with the game, which I did, but the initial impressions when it comes to difficulty, I think it's really good. And it seems to me only later when you start hitting the endgame islands, you will have to change the difficulty bar, or rather the damage, but again, it's actually good to play the game as is without further intervention in the settings. So yeah, I would say that initial impressions for the game are pretty damn good, particularly with all the new things that have been added, new pals, new mechanics, fishing for example has been added, new weapons, all kinds of stuff. Pretty much if you're coming back in the game from patch 0.4 and now encountering all these things like I have been encountering, it's going to be a blast. However, since I'm mostly interested about endgame in Palworld, the rest of this review is going to be all about that. So let's start with the first problem that I have encountered, which is dungeon location. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there are dungeons in this game, and you visit them, there's all kinds of stuff in there, and at the end of the dungeon there is a boss, couple of chests, so essentially you get pretty nice rewards when you are running these things. The problem, however, is that they are not marked on your map. The only way to make them visible on your map is to use pins that you already have available. I mean, it is a solution, but the biggest issue here is that they are not always available, as in they're not always active. Sometimes the dungeon that you have been running is inactive and the other one is active, so you would have to visit all of them in order to figure out which you can run now and which will be available in like, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. Also, what's bothering me with dungeons is there's no minimap available, so I don't know where I'm going. Some of them are pretty straightforward, while others are pretty much like a maze. For example, I was doing the Terraria dungeon, and basically that thing, I don't even know how I managed to find the exit, but apparently I did. So that was a bit iffy, and I didn't really like that approach. On the other hand, I wasn't really running dungeons to begin with, in a sense that I wasn't really farming them, because at the end of the day, I could find everything I wanted in terms of materials in the open world. But also when you utilize your base, you're basically set for life. So dungeons are okay, but because of these small issues that I have, it feels like they're a missed opportunity. Next up is all about expeditions. Now, back in the day, expeditions were really amazing for a couple of reasons. First, you could earn these really high-tier materials. They were kinda forcing you to do some breeding, but more importantly, you could spam them. Well, in version 1.0, spamming is not a thing anymore. Yes, you are still getting the high-tier materials, and you're still breeding the pals in order to access those high-end rewards. But the duration of the expeditions has been significantly increased. Your pal power does not reduce the timer, and while you still can do something about that, the reduction is maybe 10 to 15% as far as I'm aware at the moment. So best case scenario is every single expedition lasts 51 minutes. This, however, was offset by the amount of rewards that you can get after completing an expedition, and the higher power you have invested in the expedition, or rather the higher power pals you have added to the expedition, will yield more rewards. So at the end of the day, it's not that bad. You can still get what you want, but for example, I would have liked to see the timer on the expeditions a bit lower, for example, maybe around 30 minutes or so. I feel like 51 minutes is too much, but this issue might only be something that bothers me. So I'd like to see your opinions about this particular situation. Do you like that the expeditions now are longer but give more materials, or would you like them to be a bit shorter and give a bit less materials? Post your impressions down in the comments below. Next topic that I want to touch on are the oil rigs. For some strange reason, there are only 3 in the game, because due to level increases, new weapons and all that stuff, I expected there's going to be a 4th one. Back in the day, running oil rigs was the best thing ever because it dropped the best materials and schematics and all that stuff. But I quickly abandoned this notion because the amount of ammo you required for a single run on a level 60 rig, it wasn't really worth it. So yeah, I was kinda stunned when I saw that my level 80 character on a level 60 rig is still getting materials and schematics for weapons that I have already abandoned. I had the Ancient One stuff on me, so again, there is no point really running this particular content, so yeah, it kinda feels like a waste of space or whatever. So I would definitely expect to see a level 80 rig, particularly when it comes to addressing another issue that I have found, which is the water farm. And the water that I'm talking about is the World Tree Holy Water. It's a very scarce late game resource, and it drops only by high level pals around the World Tree region. Obviously, it's required to craft high tier endgame items, for example Ancient Relic Recycler, but the way that you are farming is really weird. You see, the only way to do it is to kill pals. So I, for example, found this Dusty Ravine fast travel point near the World Tree, and I'm farming groups of electric pals because I'm using menacing in order to boost drop rate from electric pals. And what's silly is that if you fast travel back and forth between nearby waypoints, or even just stepping outside render range to force instant respawns, you can do this infinitely. But as far as I'm concerned, this is really lame. The grind doesn't feel that egregious, mind you, but the way that you're doing it, just murdering bunch of pals left, right and center, I don't know, man. It would be interesting if we could get, I don't know, World Tree Holy Water Faucet or something like that, which by the way should cost tons of materials, but once you craft it in your base, you have a steady income of the stuff. So yeah, I don't feel like this was thought out properly, and hopefully in the future I would like to see this particular device that I mentioned, because going and just slaughtering everything just for the sake of it doesn't feel right to me. I don't know, maybe I'm attached to these pals, or maybe I'm a pacifist deep down in my soul, but at the end of the day, if we can get most, if not all materials from our base alone, then I don't see a problem making a World Tree Holy Water faucet, or spring, or whatever you want to call it. Next thing about the endgame is all about breeding pals, and in this particular version, it's absolutely amazing, especially when you make that ancient breeding device or whatever the fuck it's called. Back in the day, it was a huge slog, but with this device, it's so freaking fast, I love it. Not to mention they added all kinds of different cakes, so if you want to speed up your condensation process in order to get as much power as possible while running expeditions, you can just simply make vegetable cake and you're done. So yeah, I would say breeding pals, I'm actually enjoying it quite a lot, and to be honest, I think this change is a breath of fresh air and it's amazing. Overall, I would say when we're talking about some kind of progression, in this game, it's always cool because it really pays out if you're investing in different tech. And then when you're building the ancient tech stuff, you just get these amazing devices, amazing opportunities, amazing possibilities, and it just feels very satisfying. Now, as you probably know, there are hard modes for all the bosses, rather the towers that you already conquer, in order to unlock endgame, I suppose, because that's the only way to reach the world tree, but also all the different presets for your expeditions. However, I have noticed that the hard modes are extremely difficult. And the only way, as far as I'm concerned, in order to defeat the bosses in the towers on hard mode is to pimp up your difficulty using the settings. So for example, increase your damage, I don't know, 5 or 10-fold, and reduce your damage taken by, I think 0.1 is the lowest you can possibly go. It's a bit silly that you cannot do this on a normal difficulty, or rather the default difficulty. But then again, you have the option to play with sliders, so I guess that's one thing in order to accomplish what you want. Who knows, maybe if you invest enough time in order to get legendary gear, as well as proper PAL setups for certain bosses, then perhaps you would be able to accomplish this feat, but I have yet to see any top tier legendary recipe dropping in the wild so I can make the best possible weapons and armors. So yeah, don't really expect perpetual endgame here. The endgame is basically fixed, either by you defining your own goals, or by the available achievements for the game if that's your thing. Me personally, I never really cared about achievements, so I don't know if I'm going to push 100% in that particular department for Palworld, but you know, never say never, who knows what might happen in the future. So yeah, to summarize this review, I would definitely recommend you playing Palworld, especially if you share my situation, which is I played the game back when it was in version 0.4, which was a long time ago, so now when I jumped back into it, when it finally released, it felt amazing. Naturally, there are these small things that are bothering me, but they are small to begin with. It's not something that's going to be a game-breaking experience for anyone. I'm just pointing out stuff that didn't agree with me, but at the end of the day, like I said, those are just minor issues, nothing that would jeopardize your enjoyment of the game or spoiling the whole experience to begin with. If I were to summarize, this game is basically a resource/logistics management, where you utilize these creatures in order to do your bidding, with, I suppose, a finite endgame. Don't expect that you will be playing Palworld forever, because in all honesty, I don't think the design decision from the Palworld developers was for the game to have a perpetual gameplay loop. And to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, that's completely okay. I have spent countless hours in the game, I had a great time, and I will always remember it as a good experience. So yeah, Palworld 1.0. Go check it out, the gameplay is really good, the price is amazing, what's there not to like? And that's it, that's my review for Palworld 1.0. If you managed to get this far, let me know in the comments what you think about this game. And if you enjoyed this video and found it informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And that's it from me, until the next one.